What a very good morning. It is a Wednesday and the 2nd of February in this year 2022. My name is Jagenda Semakola Ziksoka. Welcome to UBC TV. It is Good Morning Uganda Extra. On another day, it is the second day of the second month in the 22nd year of 2020. And of course, very welcome again and thank you so much for choosing to be with us. And now just picking it up from where Robert Tirabo Nyonyintono just left it, we'll get into the other businesses. And joining me in studio this morning is Mr. Francis Chisirinya, and he is the Deputy Executive Director of the Private Sector Foundation of Uganda. You're very welcome, Mr. Chisirinya. Happy to have you and happy to see you again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jagenda, and good morning, everybody listening. And
Happy New Year. The last time we were together was, I think, sometime mid last year.
Yeah.
How have you managed all through and through?
God is good. We've been trying to find our feet. Of course, working on plans, various plans, and implementing them. And thank God, we've finished a number of things as an institution. Okay. We've completed our transitions, and everything is now fully in place.
How is the foundation?
The foundation is fine. Okay. After setup of all the foundation aspects, the people, the structures, the systems, we think that we are ready to go.
Okay.
Yes.
The country lost the governor of the Central Bank of Uganda, was buried 2-3 days ago.
Yes.
Professor Emmanuel Mutebile. Yeah. Just want to hear your thoughts on that, and maybe Father Simon Lokodo, who also died during the same time, and I think his body is not yet in the country.
Yeah, we really are so sad as private sector for having lost the governor of Bank of Uganda, Professor Tumusime Mutebile. He's really been a giant in our business, in our economy, as Ugandans. And the private sector, we really sadden and we extend our condolences to the family, to the Bank of Uganda staff, and the entire country at large upon the loss of Professor Mutebile. Professor Mutebile set the foundation for the economy that we see today. He was a steadfast person. He was a firm hand, he was a steady hand, and he believed in a liberal economy led by the private sector, which is the reason we are there. So we really we'll miss him so much, but we have to learn so much from what he has achieved so that we are able to make our contribution too. Then the other day we lost Father Lokodo, which was also very unfortunate. Given the circumstances, it was a death that was like an accident or something like that. It is also very unfortunate, and we know very much that Father Lokodo, we engaged with him, we interacted with him on issues of ethics and integrity, which really are the foundation to the morals and the moral fiber of the country, upon which we can build our work ethics, upon which we can build our economy going forward. So we exchanged a lot of views with him on matters of corruption, and we are so sad that he is also gone like that. We extend our condolences to the family and to the entire people of Uganda.
Okay, thank you very much. Very welcome. And of course, I've heard your thoughts on Professor Mutebile and Father Lokodo. Now, let's get to first things first. The President spoke to us at the end of the year and said January, 2 weeks after the schools reopening, the country will fully open. Now, what everybody was looking at there was the night economy, especially. And officially, 24th of January this year, we saw this now opening fully. And that's where we are. I just want to hear from you now, from the private sector, and of course from the Private Sector Foundation, what this means and how you've managed the first few weeks of the fully reopened economy after about 94 weeks or so.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, let me thank His Excellency the President for having been steadfast and kept his word and reopened this particular economy. After 2 years of the economy not being, all its components not being open, I think this was really a major issue. And of course, it had implications on the businesses and the economy. Chief among them was the element of uncertainty. You know, will the economy be opened? Will my sector be opened? Will customers come? Will, you know? Now, when the president took the decision and reopened, and everybody came back, we now have confidence as the private sector that we are now back to business. We are now back to being able to do our business as we used to do. We are very well aware that COVID is still with us, with a number of variants that have come through, like
that keep coming every time.
Omicron. We're very aware about that. But the biggest message I want to pass on to every business person, every employee, and everybody in the economy who is now enjoying the situation as it is very critical for us to keep to adhere to the standard operating procedures. Let's have the masks. Those that are not vaccinated, go and get vaccinated. If you are vaccinated but you are in the category that needs a booster dose, go for it. Sanitize, social distance, and let's make sure that we really now don't get the disease coming back to be a problem to us. Now, the economy, when it was reopened, now I can tell you that if there are two main elements that had remained very clearly: the night economy, together with the education sector, they contribute anywhere between 10 to 20% of our total value of goods and services in the country. Now, that was a big component, that to be outside the economy was certain things could not actually be done and profitably. But now that everybody is open, what we are seeing in the first few weeks of opening up, you can see a picking up of activities. If you go to trading centers, if you go to markets, if you go to entertainment places, I think you can see life back. Over the weekend, I usually jog on Saturday. This time I jogged on Sunday. As I was moving around, there is a popular restaurant that had gone quiet for some time. Now, I was surprised that on Sunday, knowing that the next day is a work day, the whole parking and even was full, and the people were parking along the road.
On Sunday?
On Sunday night, which was a little bit surprising. So meaning that life has slowly come back. The businesses are seeing customers returning. The customers are opening their pockets, which is going to mean that the business people are going to get back, build their capacity, build their business levels, stock, employ more people, and then we will see the economy coming back. So I think that is where we are to. It was very, very, very important that we are opened. The schools have opened. I think we don't have so many reports of many schools that we are worried that possibly a big number will remain unopened because either children have not come back or the owners have moved on. Yes, there were those, but they are not very, very, very significant. And I think we would like to thank you, the parents, for taking back the children to school, irrespective of all the challenges that you faced. We want to thank the school owners for also doing whatever you could to ensure that your schools were open and you received back the children, the teachers, and everybody in the education sector. I think it is an exciting thing that we are back.
Okay. I think it was some time last year that Private Sector Foundation, of course, came out with some recommendations on guiding and helping the government on how it should be done and how you should do it to reopen the economy, well, that time in a phased manner. Now that it's fully open, and maybe the other only now cry is with the borders that are not working in the night, that still have a few issues with them. Looking at your recommendations to the government, were you giving these recommendations for a phased reopening, or the recommendations are still working even now in a fully open economy where the night economy is back, schools back, etc., etc.?
Yeah. One of the approaches which we really understood as the private sector, and they also understood the government strategy, which was super, was the cautious approach to dealing with the issues of COVID, as you know. So the government took the cautious approach, both in terms of protection of citizens here against COVID, but also in terms of how the economy could be opened in a safe way. The phased approach, I think, in our view, was really a success, I should say. First of all, we didn't, not the entire economy closed. There are components of the economy that remained open: agriculture, manufacturing, financial services. Those have been with us ever since. Then now later on, the phasing started. Now we open some of the shopping centers. After this happens, do this. After this happens, do this. After this happens. I think that phasing has really been helpful. That we fortunately have not seen that exponential outbreak of COVID. It was there. It was a problem, but we would have really, if the government was not very careful, we could have seen situations like happened elsewhere in some African countries, or even Europe, where it was worse. But the phased approach was really a good approach, and now we are seeing that everybody is getting their business back to life, and this is exciting times. There are things that we need to do, and we can share those as we move on. But I think the exciting times.
You've also had issues with government, of course, in as far as asking government to settle their domestic areas. How about that? Because we hear or even know that government owes the private sector, I think, some very good lump sums of money, and how far is that now that we are actually there? Is government also putting that into consideration, or you're still struggling and finding your way to see how you again get back on your feet and see how to continue excelling in business like you were before COVID?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the issue of cash in businesses became so paramount during COVID and the lockdowns, because ideally everything slowed down so much. The money was so little, but costs were going up. The costs of protecting, for instance, your staff against COVID were quite significant. You know, buy this, buy that, new things that you didn't know about. The costs, because of the supply chains that had been disrupted world over, the cost of goods, raw materials, stocking also went up. Yet the people who would buy from you were home with no income. So meaning that you are selling very, very, very little. At one point, we had people opening their businesses and were just selling 30% of what they used to sell. And it's that little cash that they were using to run operations, which is a significant, a big problem. And therefore, because of that, a number of challenges were being faced. But we are quite happy that the government understood that the first thing that should be done in helping the private sector, the businesses, is improving their cash flows, is making sure they have some cash to work with. And one of the recommendations we made, and it is a recommendation that was executed in part, but we believe that going forward it will continue being implemented, is payment of what we call domestic areas, where government agencies and government take up goods or get services from the private sector, but they don't pay as soon as those goods are delivered. They pay later. Now, some of those were in years. We're not talking about normal credit, which is one month or whatever. Some of these were years have not been paid. But when we raised this matter and put out the list to government of the figures that the private sector supported us, provided to us, government agreed, and in 2020 paid a substantial sum of that money, about 700 billion. In the current financial year, they have also provided about, I think, 400 billion.
Yes, about 400 billion.
And I think even in the list that has just come through, I saw figures that are coming in to pay domestic areas. I believe even if you look at the new budget strategy for 2020-23, still government is looking at paying those domestic areas, which is a very good thing. So what it does is that it now injects and brings in cash into the businesses so that they can supplement the little that they have been getting out of the sales. So they're able to rebuild. But we know that domestic areas, paying domestic areas is fantastic, but is not sufficient for every business. So the other is also to help the businesses look at how they improve their cash. Like, for instance, those that had borrowed money and are supposed to pay. And at this juncture, I also thank the government that they created windows, moratoriums, where the private sector could defer their repayments. That program worked so well. I think it is
not scrapping it, but just deferring it. Being given some time.
You're given some time to pay, which is a very good thing. So the program, I think, ended around November last year, but I think those who need are being encouraged. I think that is what the Bank of Uganda said, on a case-by-case basis. But besides that, the most important gesture that has come through and the initiative of the private sector itself is where we have seen certain banks providing these reliefs to their borrowers. You are aware, we know some banks that have cancelled interests on loans, the accrued interest, that the interest that accrued during the lockdown.
The lockdown period.
Yes, some banks have.
Whoa.
Yes, they have waived that.
That's a very good gesture.
But beside that, they have also extended relief cash to their borrowers, to their customers, to ensure that they rebuild. So I would like to thank the banks so much for this initiative. It goes a long way to demonstrate that you really are there for your customers and you are in it with them. You are aware that when you rebuild your customers, then you are going to have better business. So we are very grateful for doing that. So this is going to, in addition to the other funds that have been created by government, the Small Business Recovery Fund, we believe that utilization of these funds should enable us and the business community to slowly build back our businesses.
Well, that's very important. Now, for the greater part of 2019, we saw the borders at Rwanda close, at the border at Gatuna. From February 2019, now by the time we slid into COVID in 2020, we already had a closed border on that other part. Now, throughout the COVID time, we've of course endured that still. We had the lockdown, but also we had a locked or closed border. It coincides now that when the economy fully reopens, a month later, the borders are also opening. Let's talk about that. Now, from the private sector angle, what do you think about the gesture and the incidents that we just saw on the 31st of Uganda, Rwanda, now again coming to terms to say we need to reopen these borders for business to continue thriving like it used to be, even after that disruption of nearly 3 years. Let me hear from you, from the private sector angle, about the reopening of the Rwanda border.
Thank you very much. I think for 3 years, our border with Rwanda was closed, and therefore normal flow of goods and services could not actually happen. And this was a significant blow to the private sector, the business community that was trading with Rwanda. You are aware that the trade between Uganda and Rwanda was in 2019 about $240 million a year. This is substantial, you know. So we are selling goods to Rwanda, and Rwanda was also selling goods here. So there was that beneficial interest. Now, all of a sudden, all of that was cut down, no more goods in Rwanda. And shortly afterwards, COVID came in. So you can see the double tragedy that our business people suffered. Now, just recently, we saw moves, and this is what we've been talking about for some time. When we have disagreements as countries, let us go bilateral first. Let us talk in a brotherly way as the two countries that have these challenges. Let us understand each other, remembering very well that in the end, it is our citizens that we should be representing, whose interests we should be pursuing. So we were so excited that because of these bilateral engagements, the border, we saw the announcement that we are opening on 31st January 2022. We were so happy about that, and came when the economy was also just 7 days when the economy of Uganda was fully open. So these are opportunities for us, and we thank whoever was involved. We thank our governments for having, the leaders for having taken this move. Now, we lost substantially, as I've said. There are calculations that Uganda lost about $600 million over this.
Over the period? Over the period. About $600 million?
Yes, the business has suffered. So this should not happen again. Let us learn from this, and in the future, if things like disagreements occur, let us resolve them in ways that are going to be quickly, but in ways that are going to be mutually beneficial, but also don't constrain the flow of goods and services. That is so crucial. So we, as we speak now, we know very well that there is the momentum will pick up and grow as we move on. Of course, people are organizing and reorganizing to get back into the market. And we are happy that trucks are allowed to continue into Rwanda. Yes, regarding the people movement, I think it is not yet, because we are aware that the arrangements are being worked out to manage the issues of COVID. So we believe that even when that one is handled, then even the people will start moving to Rwanda.
Do you have an organization that brings together in the region, the PSFU of Uganda, the foundation in Kenya, and in the region? Do you have a semblance of that thing, like we have a regional parliament, etc., where you dialogue and talk about all these issues? And if yes, what's now the conversation in the region amongst yourselves? Because we see the private sector foundation here of Uganda, of course, doing the best to build the economy, to do their best to see that the economy actually gets there. But yet again, we also see these disruptions coming to us, that the other day you have problems with the Juba-based business persons. The other day you have a problem with the business persons in Kenya. Now you've had issues with Rwanda. I don't know, do you have something like that, a regional outfit where you know the private sector come together to talk about some of these issues? And what's the conversation now that we see that partial opening of the border at Gatuna?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, at the East African business level, at the East African level, we do have an organization called the East African Business Council. This council is, PSFU is a founder member of this council, and a number of our leaders have been chairpersons to the East African Business Council. So the East African Business Council brings us together to deal with the issues of the region. So currently, one of the biggest challenges we are confronting and working on within the region is the issue of what we call non-trade barriers. You can even call the closing of the Rwanda border as another form of
a trade barrier.
A trade barrier, extreme, but it is a trade barrier. All the others follow within that category, but they could be maybe at a lower level. Like, for instance, where you are asked for a permit to take some goods to some country, and then when you apply for it, it takes years before you can get that permit. You're asked for licenses. There's certain goods that are said, these ones should not come here because of health issues. All of those are non-trade barriers. And at the EABC level, the discussion is ongoing, and we have made recommendations that these NTBs should be removed, because we all agreed as this community was being started, this is a people-centered community. Now, if you are blocking people from freedom of trading, is it people-centered anymore? It is not. So this is what we are encouraging the East African business, the 3 countries, the 5 countries now, to deal with. And good enough, as EABC, we've now been admitted to be part of the Council of Ministers. When the Council of Ministers are meeting
at the ESC,
at the ESC level, the East African Business Council now sits there and listens in and contributes. They may not have a decision.
The Council of Ministers is just below the summit.
Below the summit. So even if they don't make the decisions, but at least they're in the room. They're hearing the discussions and they're contributing and directly feeding in the issues. So we've got to resolve the matters of the non-trade barriers because nobody benefits from these trade barriers. It is our citizens that in the end fail. We fail them as their leaders. So that is what we do at the EABC level. And of course, we have also encouraged within the spirit of the East African Business Council that these challenges like this should be resolved through the various conflict resolution frameworks, through the East African Court of Justice and the Non-Trade Barriers Committee, which has not actually been established.
You suggested that it's not yet in place.
Yes, it's not yet in place.
Well, thank you so much. Mr. Francis Kisirinya, the Deputy Executive Director from the Private Sector Foundation of Uganda. Just hold it here for a few minutes. We'll just take a very short break. And when we return from the break, we'll continue with the conversation and, of course, look at what happened yesterday. Another very historic moment for Uganda and Tanzania of signing the final investments decisions and, of course, what that means to the 2 countries, to the 2 economies, but above all to the wananchi, the people in Uganda, Tanzania, and the greater East Africa. We'll take a break and return.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Zing Voices.
As a mother, my children depend on me to make this world a safer place for them. I'm not afraid to act when I see violence in the home and in my community. I promise to talk to my neighbors and friends about how we can nurture and protect the children.
In this time of COVID, what is your promise to the children of Uganda? Because a violence-free childhood is everyone's right. Raising Voices.
All eyes are on Africa. All eyes are on Cameroon. All eyes are on UBC. The drama, the heartbreak, the suspense, tears, joy and celebrations in the biggest sporting event on the continent. In one place, UBC. Call your public broadcaster today and grow your business with us. 0752 265 827 and 0776 611 540. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Ooh. Look. The thing goes clink, clink, clink. Woo.
Grab an ice-cold bottle of Pepsi Max today and drink to your bold lifestyle. Enjoy maximum taste with no sugar. Now available at a shop near you. Maximum taste, no sugar.
It's time to teach. Schools are open. In these days of COVID-19, teachers are not only giving knowledge, but protecting themselves and their students from the virus. As a teacher, you must ensure that students follow the set SOPs of always maintaining a distance of 2 meters from others in classrooms, dormitories, entertainment halls, school vans and playgrounds, wearing a washed and clean mask every day that covers their mouths and noses, and regularly washing their hands with soap and water. In addition to that, you must counsel students about stigma related to COVID-19 and discourage them from violence. Any violence against students from classmates, teachers or parents should be reported immediately to a school administrator or senior woman or man teacher for correction and further guidance. Ensuring everyone's safety is key, so make sure students are out of class by the official closing time. Let's share knowledge, not COVID-19. This message is supported by the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education and Sports, and UNICEF. Stay safe.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Well, a very good morning. Welcome back from the break. My name is Jagenda Semakola Ziksoka. We continue the conversation on Good Morning Uganda Extra on this particular day. And with me in studios is Mr. Francis Chisirinya. He's the Deputy Executive Director from the Private Sector Foundation of Uganda. And of course, talking about the reopening of the economy and the things that we've seen happen from the time that Uganda's economy opened up on the 24th of January, just a few weeks ago. Mr. Chisirinya, yesterday, we saw another very important day in the lives of Uganda and Ugandans when we witnessed the signing of the final investments decisions. Let me hear your thoughts on that particular one that many of us seem to understand, but I don't know whether many Ugandans, especially in the private sector, also seem to understand what was happening in this country yesterday.
Thank you. Yesterday was a proud moment for Ugandans, for Uganda, in light of the progress that has been made in the oil sector. As you are aware, the journey for the oil sector began so many years ago, and the discovery itself of the oil, I think, was about 2006. So it has taken
the
so long.
commercial viable oils, 2006, 16 years.
Yes, Ugandans, we all know there is oil there. Oil can really be a game changer to our economy. But we've not had a time when we could really feel confident that now the time has come for the oil to come out of the soil. Now, yesterday, what we saw yesterday was the conclusion of very lengthy discussions between our governments, our technical people, and the oil companies that are going to explore and that are going to get the oil out of the ground and take it to the various markets. So yesterday we had what they call the announcement of the final investment decision. The final investment decision is a stage in the investment cycle of such big projects where the investors announce their decision that they are going to invest. It is a commitment for investments to get moving. It is a commitment for contracts to start being signed. It is a commitment for money to start moving. So where we are, the investors have announced, they have committed. So the oil will come out as they have promised. 2025, the oil will be there. So what we had, if you'll excuse me to use this either analogy or like in some of the places we go to, our areas, there is something you go through and say, where to relay. Say it yourself. So the investors have where to relay also yesterday. They have where to say they are going to do the investments, and we will take them by their word, and we trust this is so. So it is a momentous decision, and it is going to have a big impact on our economy. Let me just give you a little bit of statistics. The investment, for instance, that is going to happen after announcement of the final investment decision yesterday is about $10 billion. Now, our GDP in Uganda is within the region of $30 billion. Some figures talk about 32, others 37, and recently I heard His Excellency saying,
so this is about 33%.
By July, yes, by July next year, our GDP will be 42 billion. In other words, the entire value of goods and services in the country, its value is 42 billion in a year. Now, you are getting an investor who is bringing 10 billion. He's going to add almost 30% more to the value of the goods and services.
One investor is coming with over 30% of what you already have, or what you
that certainly must really be a game changer.
And I think one of the biggest investments that we've had was, I think, the Karuma Dam or so.
Yes.
And this is many more times Karuma.
Yeah, Karuma was about $1.2 billion. This one is 10 billion, so many times more. 10 times more. So, meaning that as a country, we now see ourselves at the very end of getting to see our oil coming out. of getting to touch the petrodollar, as they say, in 5 years. But the most exciting news for now is that the money is going to start flowing today, and we've been told this year, over the 10 billion that is going to be invested, 3 billion will be invested this year in the beginning up the construction aspects of these particular projects. So for Ugandans and people who have prepared themselves, members of the business community, this is the time for us to start providing the goods, to provide the services, and it will be paid. Now, how are we going to benefit as Ugandans?
That's what is most important.
Yes.
How are we going to benefit? Because at the end of the day, the people who were watching were seeing all the things happening. And of course, we're hearing experts like yourself speaking about it. They're asking themselves questions of how they are going to benefit from that.
So Uganda, we are going to benefit at around 3 or 4 levels. The first level is at the government level, which I'm not going to put time on discussing. The second level is at the business level. The third level is at the individual citizen level. Now, at the business level, we are going into the construction phase of
the development phase of the
development phase
of the project.
Yes. So there are so many goods and services that are going to be needed. The bulk is going to be in the construction of the oil pads, the supply of the oil rigs, the transportation of all those heavy equipment that are going to be coming in the oil areas. We are going to see services like legal services to provide for contracts, for resolution of issues if they are there. We are going to see people eating, and the food is going to be big time, big business, because we have been told that at the peak of construction we might see about 40,000 people working in this area. So all of those people will be eating
every day,
and because this business is being done on international level, international scale. Usually internationally people expect to take about 3 meals a day. So what does that mean? That you're going to be preparing, or we are going to be serving food for maybe 120,000 plates per day. If you have
40,000 people who eat breakfast, lunch and supper, breakfast, lunch and dinner, 3 meals a day, times 40, you have 120,000
plates
served.
Or servings.
Or servings actually.
Yes, per day. And this goes with a lot of things. Breakfasts, you're going to have eggs, they are going to have bacon, you're going to have milk, you're going to have sugar, teas, coffee, fruits, name it. That's just breakfast. All of those things.
That's all at the individual level.
Yes.
For a Jagenda who was invested in hospitality, he's got a hotel, he's got this or that.
Yes. The lunches, matoke will be eaten, rice, posho, beans, beef, whatever. All of those things are going to be eaten. Now, meaning that for us, the businesses looking and getting those contracts to supply is a very important thing, and a number of businesses have prepared themselves to be able to supply those things. Now, you, the citizen, you might not have a contract with the oil company to pay you, but I can tell you that business person who has signed to supply food maybe to a camp of a number of people is not going to get this from their garden.
Okay.
No. They are going to come to you, the farmer, to supply the bananas, to supply the beans, to supply the meat, to supply the eggs, to supply
the chicken, etc.
So as individuals, the money will find us at our farms, but we've got to do some work too, as individual citizens. One, to look out and identify who is going to source these things from us. The second thing, what sort of standards do they expect? If it is for the eggs, how do they expect them to look like? If it is for the bananas, how do they expect them to look like? So now we comply with those standards, we put our houses in order and are able to supply, then we shall get the money. Okay? Now, when we get the money as farmers, now we can also now use it to spend on the things that we need, our needs. You need to pay fees for your children, so the school owner will get a bank slip. You know, you need to buy clothes. The company that makes clothes here will get a check, or the trader who sells clothes here will get a check. You might need some entertainment, so entertainment providers will get their check. So it will be a whole cycle adding to the volume of goods and service by 30% that is going to come and rotate through and among us. But we have to do something ourselves. As I've said, the message from the final investment decision that was made yesterday for you Ugandans that I should give you is that it means hard work. Nobody is going to give you a check free. The same thing with the border with Rwanda that has been opened. If you don't have something that goes through that border, you won't benefit. So hard work. Find out and prepare yourselves to provide something that is used in the oil sector, something that is used across the border. Let's work hard. Let's work according to the standards that have been provided, and then we are going to benefit, all of us as a country together. The second area where you will benefit as citizens in our individual capacity is in terms of the jobs. Jobs are a big challenge to this economy. Employment. And the jobs that are being talked about when everything is at the peak is in the construction phase. We have been told that those direct companies will employ about 15,000 on the East African
pipeline.
15,000 people are going to be employed there. So we are going to have builders, welders, transporters, so many. So just get yourself ready and find yourself how you get to that particular opportunity. So the skills that are required, for instance, for masonry, for welding, for all this metalwork and so on and so forth, ask yourself how you can get them. Luckily, I must let you know that the oil sector, as I put it, everything you do is according to international standards, just like it will be done in the United States of America, or in China, or in
Singapore,
Dubai,
Venezuela,
Singapore. That is what will happen here. So if you are skilled, that skill must be the same level of certification that somebody else gets in Europe or uses in Europe.
As you work in Kabale, Hoima,
yes,
it would be the same way that you would work in the Arab world.
Yes. So now, the 4,000 workers that we know today that have got these skills and certification, okay, we are happy as PSFU that we contributed to skilling of some of the work, not all, but some of them.
Some of those, and you're proud about that.
Yes, we are very proud. We worked very much with the individual companies, and they certified a number of workers in sit and guilds. That is a certification for work. The next one is Opti something. So now, meaning that those workers that have been certified and went through that training, they are going to go and get those jobs and do them. But even after they have finished the work, construction work here in the development phase, they can be deployed or they can get work elsewhere because they have an international skill. They can work in other areas, like in East Africa. There are many countries that are finding oil. So they can go and work there and get money. They can work in Europe, they can work in the Middle East because they have that certification. So that is a benefit as individuals. So they will earn the money, and when they earn the money, they will want to build houses. You know?
Mr. Chesiling, our time is running out, but remember, before COVID came in 2020, we had a plan that by 2020 we would have achieved the lower middle income status. It was our dream. Just before we could realize that, then we start on a very bad note of COVID, which has disrupted us for the past 2 years. Just coming out of COVID, we start on a very high note of saying signing an FDI for our very long oil journey. What all these things mean to us? Are we now seeing the light of the day, and especially when you talk about the middle income status? Because at the end of the day, as we also focus to the Vision 2040, where we think and expect that our people shall have been transformed into this magnitude. Are we on that trajectory? And as we conclude our program this morning, the hope for the wananchi of Uganda that really we are steadily and progressively moving into the promised land of Canaan.
Yes. First of all, despite all those problems that we've faced over the last 2 years, 3 years, the lockdowns and the things like that, still the GDP, the value of goods and services has increased in the country, and the GDP per capita, I think the president was saying, is now in the region of $900 per person, meaning that getting to middle income country, income per capita, which is in the region of $1,047 or something, it's a small gap to actually cover. Now, where we are seeing that even without having the oil investments come in and the oil itself, we had progressed. Now with the oil on board, with that investment on board, with our workers on board, and with the fantastic local content policies and provision that have been put in these oil investments and the oil sector, where you and myself and whoever is within these Ugandans can participate on a preferential basis in some of the contracts, it means some of the money will remain here. So it will be able to move us to the middle income status. So my belief, and I believe it will happen, we will be in a position to achieve middle income status in not a long time, because of the things that we have seen, the investments that we have seen in industry, in agriculture, now oil, in human resources like education and things like that. Those are things that are going to help us get to the middle income status. So the message to you, colleagues, Ugandans, is that the opportunities are there. The opportunities are even becoming more. It is us to seize them. So what do you have to do to get to benefit from these opportunities? If you are a young person still studying, study and make sure you get those qualifications. If you finish, please don't wait for somebody to give you a job. You can start your own job. The situation is now much different from what was many years ago. It is much simpler to access and start businesses. Start your own businesses, start somewhere. If you are in the business already, look at the opportunities for you to expand your businesses. Look at the funding opportunities that are available, which you can use to build your businesses, and take advantage of those opportunities. The workers that are already there, if there is some gap in your skill, see how to cover that gap and then take advantage of the opportunities that are available. Whatever you touch going forward from agriculture, whether it is the farming itself, the farm itself, those are immense opportunities, because people are going to eat every day. Okay. If you're going to provide services in agriculture, those are opportunities. If you're going to do manufacturing, those are opportunities, because the markets are expanding. Okay. So the opportunities are immense, and let's take charge and advantage of these opportunities, because the time was really called for this now. And I am able to confidently say that whoever will take the initiative to do something will actually benefit and become part of the big story of Uganda's economic revival. Okay. And a middle income status. Thank you.
Finally, just before I let you go, the experts are conversing, experts and politicians are saying we front-loaded. We are too indebted that there's nothing to be excited about, because all the processes that are going to come from this thing, we're going to pay debts. We already ate our fortune by getting so much of these debts, and now anything that will keep coming in will actually be to pay the enormous debts that we have. So because of that, there's even nothing to be proud about or to expect, because this is only coming to help us get out of the bad situation in which we've put ourselves.
Yeah, thank you. And I must accept that, yes, when we are talking about the debt levels in the country, they are in those areas where you can get worried as a country. But I should tell you very clearly that it is impossible for you to progress without borrowing. This borrowing and these sorts of debts. I think the big point is very simple. When we borrow, what do you use the money for?
What do we borrow for?
And I've seen a lot of money that is being borrowed, put in infrastructure, invested in things that will generate for us money in the future. So when these investments start actualizing and generating money, the roads that have been, you go to Hoima, all that oil region, all the roads are new, better than what you see in Kampala, except the expressway or the northern bypass, but they're better. So those roads are going to generate income going forward. Look at Karuma. Karuma, the power that is going to come through is going to generate income for this country. Look at all the other investments for which we have borrowed. They are going to generate the money for this country. So that money should be in a position to support us pay those particular loans. So we shouldn't lose focus. Let us not just borrow. Let us borrow for investments that will make money, feasible investments. The second thing is that when the investments are done, they should be, when they are signed on, they should be done in time, implemented within time, so that they are feasible as was planned at the very beginning. And finally, we have the relevant policies correct. For instance, on tax policy, it would be very unfortunate if you built a road in a particular area where you expect economic activities to actually pick up, but then you introduce maybe a policy, tax or otherwise, that is going to undermine
the usage of that
the usage and the economic activities. So if we put all the pieces together, for me, I'm very sure that the debts will actually be paid. Whether oil comes out or not, we'll be paying from the investments that we actually have. But the fact that oil has come, and the minister talked about it yesterday, it will also contribute to the paying of the loans that we attracted, because we wanted to pre-invest before oil comes. Because it is a problem, I'll tell you. If you get your economy growing, all of a sudden, 30 billion
comes in.
Yeah, it grows by 30%, just like that. But without having uplifted and improved the economic, what will happen is that you will have an unbalance. The equilibrium will be disorganized. And in the end, you'll end up with the money. The other sectors will die, and you'll end up with only oil money, just like has happened in other countries. So here, if the investments were to help agriculture, so that agriculture is not overshadowed
by the other things,
by oil, manufacturing is not overshadowed by oil, then we'll succeed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Francis Chisirinya, for having allowed to join us on GME Extra this morning. We thank you. The next time we invite you, please allow to come back and again converse with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and good morning, our viewers.
Thank you. Mr. Chisirinya, Deputy Executive Director of the Private Sector Foundation of Uganda, of course, been with us here to talk about quite a number of things. And from the private sector angle, the reopening of the economy, the reopening of the border at Gatuna, and of course, what we saw happen yesterday here between Uganda, Tanzania, and the other investors, Sinok and Total Energies. Another dawn to Uganda, to Tanzania, and of course to the region. These are some of the things that we've been discussing, and of course planning the way forward. Now, to you at an individual level, please find knowledge, seek knowledge, find out how you too can benefit. You are not as big as Total, you're not as big as Sinok, you are not Uganda, you're not Tanzania. How do you come into the fraction here? How do you benefit? Find out, get this knowledge, and see how you start benefiting from what we saw happen here yesterday till when we see the first oil dripping into this country. Don't sit back and say, I will wait to go with my Bajaj at the petrol station in Nyok Mafuta, Uganda. You can still do something before that Mafuta at the petrol station comes to you. Thank you so much. My name is Jagan Asemakola Ziksoka. Good morning, blessings, and bye for today. Thank you.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is